Generally speaking, as far as just to answer the question the best that I possibly can, how do the sages know that what they did is approved in heaven is this? There are rules that we got at Mount Sinai, not just the what's allowed, what's not allowed, but God left a certain portion of the Torah to interpretation of the sages. Meaning, He left a certain part of the Torah as a gray area for the sages to toil and arrive at the truth of what it is. Why? Because He wanted to make us partners in the Torah and not just robots. Because when you invest into something, you care more about protecting it. So for example, if I gave you money every time you woke up, and every time you came to the shiur, and every time you laughed, and every time you just got a bunch of money, guess what? Within no time, you'd stop valuing money. Why? Because you didn't work for it. That's why when you spoil kids, you ruin them. You know, it's just the reality. So in order for you to care about something, you have to work for it. So God wanted us to work for it. He wanted us to become part of the Torah. So He left part of the Torah up to interpretation. But it can't be up to interpretation based on human intellect. There had to be divine rules. So there are divine rules that He gave the sages. Of this are the divine rules that you have to meet in order to arrive at the truth. As long as you use those rules, whatever you arrive at is the truth. Which means that sometimes 2 sages or 4 sages would use all of those rules but actually arrive at different conclusions. But yet the Torah tells us, Zeh v'zeh divrei Elokim chaim. Both this and this are words of the living God. Meaning they're both right. They're both right. It's not black and white with the Torah. Sometimes it's black, it's white, it's gray, it's burgundy, it's whatever God wants based on those rules. Now, there is a midrash called Targum Onkelos. For many years, I myself thought the Targum Onkelos started with Onkelos the Ger, Onkelos the convert. Truth be told, that Targum we already have from Mount Sinai. That commentary we already have from Mount Sinai. And the reason why is because it wasn't just the Torah that God gave us, but also what is the Torah saying that He gave us. Meaning, it's not just the verses, but the simple interpretation of those verses. Like, what are you actually saying here? Because it's not common day-to-day language. So that Targum started at Mount Sinai, and Onkelos, in essence, brought it back to the world. Because it was lost for a certain amount of time. So as far as to know who's right and who's wrong, it's based on whether they use the rules. And that's why you'll see that in the Gemara, you'll see that the sages are constantly using verses from the Torah to justify everything that they're saying. And if someone uses something from the Torah, from the 5 books of Moses, it has to be that this is the reason why this is used. You can't use one verse for multiple reasons. You can't say this verse is for this law, and that law. Not allowed. It has to be for one law. That means you're limited. Now if somebody says, yeah, but I have a verse from the TANACH, I have the verse from the prophets, I have the verse from the Tehillim. We don't make laws from the Tehillim. We don't make laws from the prophets. They're important, they're called asmachta. But it's not, it's not like the 5 books of Moses. But again, these are some of the rules. Some of the rules that we have in the Torah. But does that mean that you could just, if you have a verse from the Tehillim or from the prophets, it's not important? No, it is important. It's called an asmachta. But it's not like the 5 books of Moses. If you want it to be a law, it has to meet the guidance, and one of them is that it has to have a verse in the Torah. So, and again, there's many other things. I'm just trying to make it for you. So the sages that put something out there, they're following the law. Generally speaking, there is no new laws today, and already for almost 2,000 years, there is no new laws. Everything that we have today is simply a clarification of a pre-existing law that was already passed many years ago. Just that it's modernized. We're using the law of fire on cars, the law of fire on Shabbat on cars, law of fire on Shabbat on let's say other things. For your phone, let's say. The net energy in your phone is not really fire. But you could say, okay, technically it is fire, but it's not fire, but that's not the only reason why you're not allowed to use the phone on Shabbat. Second reason is because it's makebe patish. You're completing a circuit. That's also a thing. Point being is that this law that tells us not to use a phone on Shabbat is not a law that was passed today. It's a law that's already from the Torah 3,300 years ago. But there was no phones back then. So we need the sages of today to know how to apply that law from 3,000 years ago to today.